Day from Earth. The music from the student barbecue carried across the campus lawn in lazy waves, the kind of rhythm that said, "No one here is class tomorrow." Kai Thompson leaned against a battered picnic table, holding a paper plate loaded with half-charred sausages and a dollop of suspicious potato salad. "You're telling me," he said between bites, "you've never wrestled a goanna?" 3 exchange students from Europe stared at him, wide-eyed, as if he'd announced he lived with crocodiles. Kai grinned. It was easy to play into the stereotype, especially after a couple of cheap beers. "Mate, you're joking," one of them said. "Fair dinkum," Kai replied, tossing the words out with the same easy cadence he used for everything. "You grow up in the bush, you learn quick. Anything that moves could kill you, or become dinner if you're hungry enough." They laughed nervously. Behind them, fairy lights swayed in the evening breeze, and the shadows of eucalyptus trees danced along the walls of the student housing. Above, the sky was crystal clear, the Milky Way bright enough to trace with a finger. Kai's attention drifted upward, beer bottle dangling from his hand. He'd always loved that vastness, miles of open land, endless stars. It reminded him of home, even here on the edge of Sydney. He was just about to tell them the infamous drop bear story when the air changed. A low vibration hummed through the ground, subtle at first, then strong enough to rattle the bottles on the table. Conversations stuttered. A girl looked up from her phone, frowning. "What's that?" someone asked. Kai squinted toward the sky. A ripple of light shimmered, like heat-off asphalt, then solidified into a dark shape. A ship, smooth and seamless, dropping lower without a sound except that steady vibration. "Bloody hell," Kai muttered. His friends started to back away, phones raised to capture shaky videos. He stayed where he was, squinting. It wasn't a drone too big. Not a plane either. No lights, no wings. The shape hovered above the lawn. A pale beam widened from its underside, sweeping across the grass until it locked onto him. "Mates?" Kai took a step back. The beam brightened. He felt his feet leaving the ground. "All right, nah, that's not normal." He shot upward like a hooked fish, beer bottle tumbling from his hand. His friends screamed and scattered as the lights swallowed him. The last thing he saw was the panicked face of the German exchange student yelling something in a language he didn't catch. Then there was only blinding light and the odd sensation of weightlessness. When his vision cleared, Kai was standing on a smooth metallic floor. The air smelled like burnt copper. Around him, tall figures with chitinous armor and glassy black eyes moved in precise patterns, speaking in a language that clicked and hummed. "A G-Day," Kai said. His voice echoed weirdly. The alien stopped. One stepped forward, a long, jointed limb holding a device that glowed blue. Kai held up his hands automatically. "Look, if this is about the sausages, I swear they were cooked through." The alien tilted its head. A synthesized voice buzzed from a hidden speaker, human specimen acquired. "Prepare for containment." Kai blinked. "Specimen? Hang on." 2 more approached, guiding him toward a transparent wall that hissed open. He went along, still half-stunned. His backpack was still slung over his shoulder. He realized that somewhere in there was his multi-tool, his lighter, even a packet of barbecue sauce he'd nicked from the table. The door sealed behind him. The aliens watched through the barrier, clicking among themselves. Kai sat down on the cool floor, rubbing the back of his neck. "Right," he muttered to himself. "So, I've been abducted by bloody bugs." Figures this happened during finals week. The aliens didn't react. They were busy scanning his vitals with floating orbs that zipped through the air. Kai waved at one lazily. It beeped and zipped back out. Instead of panicking, he looked around, cataloging details, panel seams, the faint whir of machinery behind the walls, the way the ventilation grills were just wide enough to fit a hand through. His mind ticked over calmly, as if solving a puzzle. He could hear faint discussion through the wall, their words incomprehensible except for one translated fragment that came through a speaker. "Begin preliminary dissection at 3rd cycle." Kai grinned slowly. "Oh, you're in for a surprise, mates." He leaned back against the wall, relaxed as if he were still at the barbecue. Above him, strange lights pulsed, and somewhere deep in the ship, the engines shifted pitch. Whatever these aliens thought they'd caught, it wasn't going to go how they planned. Struth, this ain't a farm. Kai woke to a rhythmic vibration, like the heartbeat of some giant mechanical animal. The lights in his transparent cell dimmed, then brightened again in a pattern that suggested morning, if morning existed in space. He pushed himself up from the cold floor, yawning. Right then, he muttered, brushing dust from his jeans. Time for a look around. The walls shimmered and slid open without warning. Two tall aliens waited beyond, their segmented limbs moving with eerie precision. One carried a tray of something gelatinous, green and wobbling. The other held what looked suspiciously like a cattle prod. Kai sniffed the air. That breakfast? He pointed at the tray. Because if it is, you've got no idea what real food tastes like. The alien tilted its head, mandibles clicking. A flat voice emerged from a speaker on its chest. Sustenance allocation. Consume. Kai took the tray, eyed the quivering blob, and poked it with a finger. It jiggled like bad jelly. He grinned. You're joking. You're feeding me bait. He set the tray on the floor, rummaged through his backpack, and pulled out the little foil packet of barbecue sauce. Tearing it open with his teeth, he drizzled the sauce over the green mass. The smell improved only slightly, but he nodded to himself. Not bad. The aliens simply watched, their translator units struggling to catch up as Kai muttered Aussie slang. He forked a chunk of the goo into his mouth, chewed thoughtfully, then shrugged. I've had worse at the uni cafeteria. One alien leaned toward the other, clicking rapidly. Their expressions, or what Kai read as expressions, shifted. He caught the faint translation from their speakers. Subject displays adaptability. Emotional baseline, calm. Kai licked sauce from his thumb. Too right, I'm calm. You blokes don't scare me. The alien with the prod gestured, and Kai was herded out of the cell and into a wide corridor lined with pulsating conduits. The air smelled faintly of ozone. Everywhere, more of the chitin-armored beings moved about their tasks, glancing at him as he passed. The corridor opened into a chamber bristling with strange devices. Holographic symbols flickered above consoles. A faint hum of power vibrated through the floor. Specimen orientation, the lead alien announced. Orientation, Kai echoed. What is this? First day on the job. A mechanical arm lowered toward him, scanning with a blue beam. He stayed still, eyes darting. His fingers itched to touch the controls, to pry open panels and see what made this place tick. They moved him along to another door, which hissed open to reveal a small room with no windows. A single table sat in the center, surrounded by unfamiliar instruments. Kai's instincts prickled. He wasn't here for a tour. They were sizing him up. As the aliens began setting out tools, Kai's gaze slid to a ventilation grill near the ceiling. The screws looked loose. His grin returned. You fellas are a bit on the tidy side, aren't ya? He said, stepping casually around the table. Ship's nice and clean. But your maintenance work? Mate, I've seen better on a sheep station. One alien barked something sharp in its clicking tongue. The translator tried and failed to keep up. Kai shrugged and leaned against the table, pretending indifference while his eyes scanned the instruments, scalpels, clamps, something that looked like a bone saw. Yeah, nah, he muttered under his breath. When they left him alone for a moment, perhaps to fetch something, he acted. Swift as a roo bolting from brush, he pried at the ventilation grill with his multi-tool. The screws gave with a soft squeal. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of burnt circuits. Beauty, he whispered. He reached inside, feeling the tangle of wires and tubing. With practiced ease born from years of tinkering in the outback, he stripped a wire and twisted it around another, creating a crude loop. Sparks danced. A smile spread across his face. When the aliens returned, they found him sitting cross-legged on the table, licking barbecue sauce from his finger as if nothing had happened. They moved in, gesturing for him to lie down. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah, nah, I'll pass. The improvised loop behind the grill hissed. A bright flash erupted as the circuit overloaded, plunging the room into darkness. The aliens shrieked, their mandibles clattering as emergency lights flickered. Kai vaulted over the table, ducked under a flailing limb, and darted through the door before it fully closed. He sprinted down the corridor, laughter bubbling in his chest. "Crikey," he called over his shoulder, "this ain't a farm, but I reckon I can make it one." Behind him, alarms wailed. The aliens scrambled, their careful order unraveling as one Australian exchange student turned their ship into his personal playground. The Drop Bear Protocol. Red emergency lights strobed through the alien corridors, painting the walls in frantic pulses. Sirens wailed in a strange, clicking cadence. Somewhere far off, a metallic crash echoed. Kai had no idea what he'd just set in motion, but the chaos was music to his ears. He ducked into a shadowed alcove and caught his breath. Right then, he whispered, tugging his backpack tight, "Let's see how much trouble one bloke can make." The translator device he'd swiped earlier hung awkwardly around his neck. It chirped as alien voices crackled over the ship's comms. "Contain the specimen. It has bypassed Level 2 security. Deploy sedation units." Kai grinned. "Specimen? That's cute. You fellas really don't know Aussies, do ya?" A group of insectoid crew members clattered past, weapons raised. He waited until they were gone, then slipped out, moving deeper into the ship. The hallways twisted like termite tunnels, lined with humming conduits. He ran his fingers along the walls, feeling for access panels, grinning when his multi-tool found a seam. With quick practice motions, he popped a panel open and peered inside. Bundles of wires glowed faintly. He tugged free a slender one, then stripped it with his teeth. Sparks fizzed. "Ooh, touchy," he muttered. He wound the wire around another and shoved it back, watching as the lights above him flickered wildly. Somewhere in the distance, a door slammed shut and alarms shrieked louder. "Bit of bushcraft engineering for you," Kai said, satisfied. "See how you like it?" Footsteps, or whatever those multi-jointed legs counted as, clattered closer. He darted into another maintenance hatch and crawled through a narrow shaft. Warm air gusted past him. A metallic clang behind him made him freeze. Something moved in the darkness. Kai's heart leapt. Then he laughed softly. "Just a drone, mate." Indeed, a small spherical maintenance drone hovered nearby, its blue optic pulsing as it scanned him. He whistled low. "You're a cheeky bugger, aren't ya? Reckon I could use you." He reached out slowly, palm up. The drone beeped, but didn't retreat. Using his multi-tool, he pried open a side port and fiddled with the circuits. The drone twitched, but didn't resist. A few twists later, the optic glowed red. "There we go," Kai said. "Now you're my little drop bear." The idea made him chuckle. Back home, he loved telling tourists about drop bears, imaginary carnivorous koalas that drop from trees onto unsuspecting campers. Time to make the myth real, in a way. He reprogrammed 2 more drones he found in a supply alcove, setting them to dart out of vents at high speed, emitting shrill screeches. He set them loose with a slap on each casing. "Go get him, boys." Minutes later, chaos erupted. Through the translator, he heard panicked voices. Unknown autonomous units in Sector 7. They leap from above. They cling to us. Contain them. Contain them. Kai laughed so hard he had to brace against the wall. He pictured the crew scattering as the drones latched onto their carapaces, scratching and wailing. Footsteps clattered again, louder this time. He ducked behind a crate in what looked like a supply room. 2 aliens entered, scanning with their weapons. One barked something, and the translator caught a fragment. "Human is dangerous. Extreme caution. Dangerous." Kai whispered, "You ain't seen nothing yet." He rummaged through the supply crate quietly, pulling out coiled tubing, a strange crystal battery, and a bundle of thin metallic rods. With a few quick twists, he fashioned a makeshift spear, wiring the battery to the tip. It hummed faintly, charged with alien energy. The guards drew closer. Kai waited, timing his breathing. When one leaned over the crate, Kai popped up with a grin. "Day, mate." The spear crackled as he jabbed it forward. The guard screeched, convulsing as the electric charge ran through its carapace. The other fired a stun blast, but Kai rolled aside, snatched up the fallen guard's weapon, and bolted through the door. He sprinted down the hall, alarms screaming, the ship shaking as if responding to his defiance. Overhead speakers barked new orders. Lock all decks. Terminate the specimen. Kai laughed breathlessly as he ran. You're a bit late on that, fellas. Ahead, he spotted a large observation window, a view of distant stars, and a swirling blue nebula. He skidded to a stop, breathing hard, taking it in. For a moment, all washed over him. Crikey, beautiful, ain't it? But heavy footsteps closed in. He shook himself and darted into another corridor, heading toward the engine hum he'd been following. If he could get to the heart of this ship, he might find a way to control it, or wreck it. Behind him, the translator picked up another frantic order. All units, do not underestimate the human. Kai flashed a wild grin. Now you're getting it. And with that, he plunged deeper into the ship, ready to turn every last bit of alien tech into another surprise. Not a specimen, a survivor. The air in the engine deck was hot enough to sting Kai's skin. He crouched behind a bank of glowing conduits, wiping sweat from his brow with a sleeve streaked in grime and alien ichor. The thrum of the ship's core pulsed through the floor like a massive heartbeat. All right, mate, he whispered to himself. Time for the big finish. Through the translator hanging around his neck, the alien comms crackled with frantic orders. Specimen located in core chamber. Engage with extreme force. Contain or eliminate. Kai adjusted the makeshift spear still clutched in his hand. The humming battery at its tip gave off a faint blue glow. He shifted, scanning the room. The main reactor, a massive cylinder lined with shifting glyphs, dominated the center. Energy arcs danced along its surface. Bootsteps, chittering voices. A squad of 6 insectoid guards stormed in, weapons leveled. Their leader, taller and broader than the rest, jabbed a claw toward Kai. The translator spat out a cold command. Human, surrender. Kai stood slowly, letting them see the grin spread across his face. Yeah, nah, not really my thing. The lead guard raised its weapon. Kai hurled his spear. It struck the nearest conduit, sending a shower of sparks and a surge of energy across the deck. The lights dimmed, then blazed white-hot. The aliens hissed in alarm, staggering as the ship shuddered. Kai dove for cover, rolling behind a maintenance console. Laser blasts chewed into the bulkhead where he'd been seconds before. He popped up, grabbed a loose power cell from the console, and hurled it toward the reactor. It burst midair with a crackling flash, sending a concussive wave that knocked the aliens off their feet. You blokes picked the wrong bloody Aussie, Kai shouted over the din. 2 guards scrambled up, charging. Kai grabbed a length of pipe, swung it like a cricket bat, and sent one sprawling. The other swung a blade arm, nicking his jacket as he ducked under and jammed the pipe into the alien's midsection. It screeched, collapsing in a heap. Smoke filled the air, acrid and metallic. Emergency klaxons screamed louder, and through the translator came more terrified chatter. Core destabilizing. Evacuate. Evacuate. The remaining guards hesitated. Kai wiped sweat from his brow again and planted his hands on his hips. See, you lot should have left me at the barbecue. One guard shrieked and bolted. The others followed, abandoning their weapons. Kai stooped to pick up a strange rifle, slung it over his shoulder, and moved toward the reactor. The glyphs on its surface flickered erratically now, warning symbols flashing in colors he couldn't name. Time to go, he muttered, scanning the chamber until he spotted an escape hatch marked with alien runes. He sprinted toward it, boots pounding on the deck. Overhead, the ceiling panels trembled. The ship groaned as though in pain. The hatch led into a narrow tunnel lined with safety rails. At the far end sat a sleek pod with a transparent canopy. Kai grinned. You beauty. He climbed in, pressing random controls until the canopy sealed with a hiss. The interface lit up, foreign symbols scrolling across the screen. He squinted. Right, if I were a launch button. Outside, through the canopy, the chamber shuddered violently. Fire blossomed along the walls as energy conduits ruptured. At last he spotted a triangular glyph pulsing bright green. Close enough. He slammed his hand down. The pod jolted, then shot forward, hurtling through a launch tube that opened directly into the cold void. The alien ship loomed behind him, fractured panels glowing, a massive wound tearing across its hull. He watched from a safe distance as the mighty vessel convulsed, then tore itself apart in a silent, brilliant explosion. Shards of alien metal tumbled through space like falling stars. Kai leaned back in the seat, breathless, and laughed. Crikey, didn't think that'd actually work. The pod's systems adjusted course automatically, orienting toward a blue-green planet below. Earth. Home. Relief flooded through him. He dug into his pack, found the last of the barbecue sauce packet, and squeezed it straight into his mouth with a satisfied sigh. Hours later, the pod slammed into the red soil of the Australian outback, skidding to a stop in a spray of dust and gravel. Kai kicked the canopy open and climbed out, brushing himself off. A pair of stunned sheep stared at him from a nearby paddock. "Hey, fellas," he said, slapping dust from his jeans. "You won't believe the night I've had." In the distance, a farmhouse porch light flickered on. A man stepped out, squinting into the dawnlight. "Oi, you all right, mate?" Kai grinned wide, holding up the alien rifle as proof. "Yeah, nah, I'm good. But if anyone asks, tell him, don't mess with the Aussie exchange student."